Joining us now, NBC News senior enterprise reporter Brandy Zadrozny. So when you have that little element of truth to it, what you can do is then manipulate it and skew it in order to push your own false narrative about it. Have officials come back to us and told us anything more about this investigation?
Nope. They are looking into it, and a similar thing was happening in York County, maybe. York County officials said, we're also looking into some ballots, and that's where they stopped. As you know, disinformation loves a vacuum, and to swoop in and fill that vacuum with lots of falsehoods, right? We caught it. Who is we that he's talking about? It's not the Trump campaign. It's not Republican officials. It was the election workers, right? Reviewing the things as they should. The process, the boring process of democracy working as it should, but he's able to take that and spin it into this narrative.
Can you give us a little bit more insight into just the formal process or the normal routine process that these election workers are going through to make sure that these ballots go out to the right people?
Oh, well, there's tons of processes, right? Like for example, there was another issue in Pennsylvania, which he also has sort of suggested is fraudulent or part of the cheating aspect, that claimed that people that had shown up in line yesterday to request mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania and Bucks County, they were told to leave before 5 o'clock, the cutoff time. But that cutoff time wasn't actually the cutoff. It's not like it was voting day, and there is no pre-voting in Pennsylvania. So basically, they said, go away. We're not obligated to take that long. But then it became this huge thing, and they said, oh, we're filing a huge lawsuit, but it wasn't a huge lawsuit. It's these particularities of voting are boring and specific, and by the time we've gone through them and said, oh, here's what is happening in Lancaster County, he's on to the next thing.
Yeah, and part of the issue is that Republicans for decades have been saying that they want voter ID. They want voter ID to make sure that polling is safe and that it's honest and that only the people who should be voting are voting. Democrats and voting rights activists have argued that, hey, listen, you can do that, but what you're going to do is disenfranchise a whole number of people who aren't able to go to the DMV and get an ID, or who don't know about it. It's going to make it too difficult to exercise what is a constitutional right.
Right. Now, there have been sort of meta studies that show somewhere between like 1 in every 10 voters will be disenfranchised because of that. And it's no big surprise that is usually younger voters on college campuses, voters of color, and voters that maybe aren't as rich as...
don't have the same means.
Yes.
All right, Brandy Zadrozny, thank you so much for joining us. And joining us now, Stanford University professor of law and MSNBC election analyst Nate Persily. Thanks so much for joining us. Tell me about these claims, because, you know, this is what Donald Trump is saying as of last night. I would expect to hear him say a lot more things just like this as we get closer to Election Day, and then potentially on Election Day itself if it looks like he's losing.
Well, let me just echo something that Brandy said, which is that the system is working. This is exactly what should happen, which is that if there are problems in applications, that they will be rejected. That's not just happening in these counties in Pennsylvania. It's happening in many places around the country. And this is what the professional election officials do. And also, just to reiterate, if there are errors on the voter list, that doesn't mean that there's ballot fraud. If there are imaginary people who are on the list, it's not as if they're going to show up in the polling places. And so there's a very big difference between errors on, say, the voter registration rolls and whether there's actually ballots that are cast that are going to have an effect on the election. But what we're seeing in this pre-election period is a lot of dust being kicked up to preserve the possibility for contesting the election after the fact.
For anybody that might be wondering, if you're say you're filling out an application and the allegation here is that this one person filled out a number of applications because the handwriting on the applications was so similar, could you, in theory, fill out an application and get a ballot sent to one person at one address, or maybe, you know, at a handful of addresses that the person might have, you know, claimed on these forms?
Well, there are all kinds of checks that are in place at the election offices in order to prevent that from happening. So that, you know, what ends up happening is that you can't have, say, the voter getting 2 ballots. And so if you can have voter registration forms that are filled out, you know, one for each voter, and then that person will get a ballot and then have to vote it. But there's all kinds of checks that the election officials are putting in place to make sure that it's actually the person who has submitted the application who is the one who's going to get the ballot. Most significantly, they look at the signature, they look at other kinds of validating data to make sure it's actually the person who submitted the application.
So Virginia, can we go to that state? There's in-person registration, so you can walk in on election day and register to vote and then vote. But the Supreme Court right now is allowing Virginia, the state and the governor, to purge a number of voters from the rolls who might be non-citizens. How is that going to affect things?
Well, this was a quite surprising decision today from the Supreme Court because, as a general rule, we don't allow states within 90 days of the election to purge voter lists, to sort of do a kind of systemic taking off of people's names on the rolls. What ends up happening is that when people get driver's licenses, there's sometimes a question that asks whether you're a citizen or not, and some people don't fill out check that box. And so what happened in Virginia is that they were going to take some of those folks off the rolls. It's not going to prevent these folks from voting. As you said, they can register on the same day and vote in the polling place, but it shows that the Supreme Court's willing to get involved in the week right before the election.
Can I ask you just a really quick question? I voted the other day, and I noticed that the signature that I did on the little keypad didn't match the signature that they had on file, so I redid it. Is that how much of a problem is matching signatures, and how do you figure out what signature you have on file before you go to vote and to make sure that they're lined up?
That's a great question. And people need to understand that when they go to the DMV to get their driver's license, that signature is not just important for driving, it's important for voting, because usually that's the signature which then is matched against the signatures that you do for whether it's absentee ballots or in the polling place. But most states, what they do is they have a history of your signature. It's not just that one signature at the time at the DMV. It's also any time you've signed in previously when you voted or when you've requested an absentee ballot.